So, Andrea, in my office here, I also have a full bar. And over in the bar, you know what I have? Some absinthe. So, don't know how illegal it is because I've got a bottle of it sitting over there to my left. But
I got cat litter sitting to my right.
this is Eric.
This is Andrea.
Hallmark Mysteries and
more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Are you going to read us an IMDb of
I am
today?
Yes, I am, because I don't think the Hallmark channel keeps their old ones on there.
It's on there. You can
well, I'm not going to research overly hard.
Well, before we get diving in there, tell me about your little mystery game that you posted.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I shared about Myrtle before, and I've gotten people hooked on Myrtle. Myrtle was a book that's got solving mystery puzzles. There's also a Myrtle board game. I was just informed. I have not seen that, so I'm going to check that out too. But this is one that my friend gave me for Christmas, and I guess you can buy these on Amazon, and I will hold it up for the YouTube people if you can kind of, maybe see with my background.
We'll even know what we'll do. We'll even stick a little link in the show notes.
Yeah. So it's called Unsolved. Oh, it's called Unsolved Case Files. And so they have different cases, and all of them are very interactive. So they give you a little police notebook with all of the police officers' notes. They have the suspects' cards. They have business cards collected on them. They have crime scene photos. They have police reports, extra stuff. I mean, they have all of this. And then on the business cards, they have fake websites for these people on this business card. So if you randomly came across this on the internet, you might be like, is this a real person? Can I hire this person? No, they are just part of this fake game.
They never reply to me when I'm trying to contact them.
So I was like, this is the first round. I will say this, I got 2 of the 3. There are different envelopes that you open when you solve the first one, and you kind of get to a deeper mystery, deeper and deeper. And on the first couple I solved, and then by the third, I was already doing this for 2 hours. So this is an easily 3 to 4 hour thing.
How focused are you when you're doing that? Is this all your attention?
I had my iPad on. I didn't want to do the Hallmark Saturday night movie just because I wasn't going to be able to watch it, because you're pretty focused on this. So just some mundane background, again, a Murder, She Wrote that you might have seen 1,000 times, because you don't have to overly pay attention. My husband was going to do it with me, but then he fell asleep, so I was doing it by myself. And I enjoyed it though. I think that if you devoted 3 to 4 hours, and they had a YouTube video at the end with a news story that broke and you solved the case. So they really go above and beyond with the details. And I feel like if I ordered another one, which I think I'm going to, I now know how in detail I have to look. Because after the first one that I half solved, I realized, wow, this is I really have to be looking at the fake websites that they put up, because the clues are in this fake website, and they have different pages. They have a contact page, they have photos, they have events, they have pages you got to search through. So it's time consuming to really nail it down.
Are they total stock photography pictures, or they look like they actually did a photography for this?
I think this is all, because when looking at the people, they're very AI generated, because obviously you don't want to use, you're like, that's my photo, I'm murdered. But they, the photos look very AI, and the murderer and the one that I got, I don't want to tell you because I was going to mail. Never mind. I can't tell. I will ruin it for Eric. I told Eric I was going to send this to him and mail it to him, and then he can try it. This is also one where you can pass it along to friends. I didn't take any notes in the actual bag, and it's pretty, I can just throw it in a manila envelope and mail it to you. So it should be pretty cheap to mail if you wanted to pass it along to friends. So that would be another fun little game to kind of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It's the sister brotherhood of the Unsolved Case Files.
So when you go to the Amazon, is it they have a description of the mystery, so you can choose one that you find interesting?
Yeah. So I went to their website after, on the unsolvedcasefiles.com is where it is just what it is. And then you can kind of scroll through and read the different mysteries that they've created.
Okay.
So And they all have like 4.7 and above ratings, so they're all pretty well rated.
Well, I remember when you first talked about it, I didn't think it was this elaborate,
I
and it
didn't
seems like
either.
they really put an effort into making this thing good. So,
Yeah, yeah. So I was quite shocked. So I was going to tell my friend, I'm like, wow, this is a really cool actually gift that if you are into like solving mysteries, then I realized how intense. Like you can actually see like, wow, these, as we're going to review the Gourmet Detective, like actual detective work. I mean, this is just, obviously just a thread of probably what it really is, just to see how detailed that Hallmark maybe doesn't include all of the details that they're actually really doing in real life.
well, it's funny.
That's what I learned.
We'll go back to Tuesday, and like the Spencer sister investigations are
Yeah,
pure fun, but I don't
yeah,
view them as really any like actual investigation.
right,
Whereas at least the Hallmark
right.
mysteries tend to be pretend to be a little bit
And
into
they're
a
still not nailing
investigation.
what
Right.
this kit was. So I was like shocked and overwhelmed because I was like, this is not what they show me on my Hallmark channel.
And certainly not
So
murder she
I'd
wrote.
highly recommend if you wanted to. I would look at their website and just scroll through and see if there was a fun little case that you wanted to try to solve. And that would be a
Well,
great, like again, if you drank like Eric, you guys have a little wine night, or for myself, we could do a little mocktail night with some friends and have some fun. So yeah.
well, if since I'll be drinking it instead of being the 2 to 3 hours, mine will be like five
Yeah,
to
that
eight
might take you a while.
hours because I won't be quite as good with the clues
No, you're gonna miss
as
the
you.
details that you need to pay attention to.
Oh
All
boy.
right.
Shall
Well,
we? Shall
anything else?
we? No. Shall we
We
go
good?
into a little
All right.
gourmet?
All right. Gourmet Detective Rue the Day. Henry is hired to authenticate and purchase a long lost and very valuable recipe book. Soon, Henry and Maggie find themselves in a murder mystery where secrets hidden within a treasured book have dire consequences for all who own it.
Wait, they called it a recipe book in the description.
Uh huh, they did.
Oh, Henry would be mad.
Cookbook. All right. Well, overall enjoyment for this one. Eric, what do you think?
4.5.
Well, okay.
So I really liked it. I thought once again, kind of like the whole absence thing was a little bit weird because I think I missed that because it is legal and it seemed like now maybe how I've justified it to myself is it must be like there's rules of what it can be and it's kind of like just alcohol in general like oh you can go to this much proof and then it's illegal if you do too much in some states so maybe
That's what I
like
was just going to say. I
maybe there's
remember
like
in college
pure
that was a
essence.
thing. Yeah, and it was not, I feel like it was not legal, but that's where I'm like, I is a little muddy, but I feel like at some point that was not legal, and that would have
So
been in the time this movie-ish came out, so maybe.
yeah. So like I said, I don't know. It just seemed like to me when I
Did you
have
ask
it,
Dylan about it?
he did well. He talked about how he investigated and said this is like a complicated uh history.
Okay.
So like I
Okay.
said, so that's what I'm thinking is it must be some sort
At
of
some point in history.
proof of it or the potency of it because it's certainly not addictive to me. Mostly what I find it being is it gives it just because it's got this sort of fluorescent type thing, it just gives it a more visual thing than
Hmm.
much anything else. So
Okay.
that's what I'll do. So, but getting
Okay.
back to it, what I liked is I just really in this one, Henry and Maggie are just solidified as a couple. And I think they're just great the way that they just interact in here so effortlessly as a couple. They clearly adore each other. You've got all the, it's the last episode, but you have all the hope in the world that they're nice, up there in San Francisco, living together, married, living the great life. So just really loved the way there.
Hmm.
I also think in this one, and we've referenced it a few times since we talked to Dylan to begin with, but I think we got to see the most Henry that Dylan wanted to create in this one. He had a little more of his quirk, his like obsession we were just joking about with it being called the chef book, not a cookbook, and how he was just like so
Recipes.
would kind of lose it whenever it was being called a cookbook. No, it's a chef book, and just his passion about it, I thought was great. And then when they're going to the Giants game, and he's like literally clueless that it's baseball, like he's thinking they're maybe going to football, so he doesn't even know what season they're in or anything. So you get that. There's a scene where he's playing the classical music going there. And then the ending, which we'll all talk into a little bit more, but when he's holding the garden hose as the gun, thinking he's like, oh, I'm also a detective here, like just like Maggie with her actual gun and stuff. So I found just Henry, I think, had many more glimpses to the quirkiness of the character that we would get little tiny ones here, but I thought we had a consistency of that throughout the entire one. And then we talked about it last time. We loved when his dad got introduced, and I liked the fact that his dad was really part of this episode. It wasn't one of the ones where his dad comes in and then we go on to the next one and lo and behold, his dad is completely gone and all of that goes away. So I really liked that, how there, and he was dead. He was kind of involved in solving the case as well as instrumental in providing some of the information. It was his, the distributor that was coming by him that gave the clue and all that. So I thought that was really good. And then the last thing I'll just say is it actually returned to being a pure Epicurean mystery where it was like the food was the actual mystery per se, kind of like the first one with the poisoned eel, lamprey eel. Whereas this one, it was maybe not food, it was a drink, but it was a pure Epicurean mystery, not Epicurean adjacent like the middle ones all were. So like I say, it was really good, really, really, really good. I just the bar that 5, those other ones are just a little bit higher for me. So how about you?
I don't think I've ever heard the word epicurean before. So,
Epicurean? Epicurean food.
so good thing you clarified that for myself. I don't know what that word means. All right. For me, I gave it a 5 out of 5. I enjoyed this one. I thought the pacing was good. I liked that Molly's restaurant was introduced. The mystery itself was one that I enjoyed. Sometimes they can be kind of like, eh. There's lots of twists, turns. They make you stay on your toes. They're very much true to a Hallmark mystery. Like there's a lot of red herrings. But I think that they were really finding their stride. It felt like a couple who investigates together and they had figured out their dynamic. They're both, working together and, home life together. So I feel like this one was like, great. I'm so glad it's back on because again, it was like a 3-year hiatus before this came back. And I was hoping at the time we were going to get some more of these. But again, when this came back, it was 2020. I'm sure this was filmed pre 2020. And then I'm sure it just, once 2020 hit, it just probably all
Right.
went out the window, as probably many of the different mysteries or even series just kind of like, what are we going to do? We're going to axe it. So for me, that was kind of a bummer at the time because this was one of my, and still is one of my favorites. But yeah, I enjoyed it. We'll talk about our rankings towards the end to kind of see, because I have ranked 3 now, 5 out of 5, with 1 being my clear favorite. But
Same
we'll
here.
talk about, yeah. So we'll talk about kind of our mystery minute now. What did you think of the mystery?
So for me, like I said, it get down to the fact of that absence was it, and that's the only reason why it wasn't a 5. Like I loved everything about this, but I just didn't quite understand what the problem was. So it kind of just pulled it a little bit away from me. I also thought that it kind of sometimes just became a little unfocused, the story, where I was like, okay, oh, brought me back in. Like a couple of times I found myself almost wandering away, but it did bring it back in. And then the wrap up with the accomplice, like the main guy, the Belvedere guy was, great, but the accomplice one was just kind of like a meh on that, right? Well, it was a twosome thing there. But I loved the secondary mystery of the forgery being like that being part of it. So it's like the red herring, but it wasn't just a red herring. It turned out to be an actual thing with it. They created it. And he had, I don't know why in his own house he had to have a secret room and stuff like that, but it was fun and all that. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So I know it was good. I just, again, why was it what was the crime going on here? But maybe, like I say, maybe that's what it is.
For me, the mystery, I mean, you either love these when they have lots of red herrings and lots of trails that they take you on, or they drive you crazy. One of the two. Like you either like on board with it or you're like, this is just too much. I can't follow it. And what you had just said, I felt that at times in this one too, but I think mine was more of like, okay, who is that person again? Because again, sometimes you get them for so little, you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
and they are red herrings, and you're like, okay, did we really need to throw in a 10th person? No, we didn't really need to pull that thread. So I feel like this one might have had a few more of those, and then trying to keep them all straight, especially if they're all look similar. You're like, wait, is that the same guy that we saw for 30 seconds in scene 2? No, it's not. It's a different guy, but they look similar. So that's what I found. And the same with, was it this one or was it the last one when I was like, is this the same gal who was in movie 1? And so sometimes even that, when you watch these again, obviously most weren't watching back to back when they were created, but then when they come back to back, you're kind of like, wait, was she the same person who was the murderer, but now she's supposed to be not the murderer,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm almost positive aren't
It
reoccurring
was. It wasn't.
actors,
I looked them up, and they were two different actresses, but they
but they
looked
do look
very
alike. I
similar. And
totally
so when you're
totally agree with
watching
you.
them all in a row, it throws you for a second. You're like, wait, is this person out of jail already? No. Okay, different actress. Got it. So that for me, I suppose, was the mystery minute of just a little bit of confusion at times. But what about the romance?
Wait,
What did you feel
one last
here?
thing. I just while you're going, I looked up. It aired on January 19th, 2020.
Yeah,
So
so
that was obviously
still
right
filmed.
before all the
Yeah,
COVID. So it probably filmed in the
2019.
fall of 19, but
Yeah,
still it was a pretty like a
yeah.
3-year gap, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but it wasn't one of the ones where whatever it was filmed fairly late. So we did have a big wait. In fact, Dylan even talked about he kind of thought, it was wrapped up and then we're doing another one. So
All right. What about romance?
I mentioned before, I love how comfortable they are together. I just that it was right from the very get-go when the chemistry in there was a little bit more antagonistic, but you felt it still. And it's totally through the 5 episodes evolved into just a pure comfort. Still, does Henry do the stuff where Maggie has to rein him back in? Absolutely, right? But it they are just a beautiful couple together that I just love and cheer for. And believe me, I talked about it before. Elliot and Kat, I just don't, despite what they're doing, I don't see them as an actual couple. Whereas I totally see Maggie, like Dylan and Brooke, Maggie and Henry,
Henry.
whatever, as a real. They just they're lovely together. So yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
this,
the last
oh,
thing I'll say about it too is it's that, especially the final scene when Henry surprises Maggie with bringing Abby back because Maggie's missing her the whole thing because she's off in college now. It's just super touching and what you'd want out of them. And they didn't have to have the scene there, but I thought it was just great to do. So
I mean, I think their relationship is, it seems to be going the way of marriage eventually if they would have
right.
had more of these. And I liked how they moved a little bit faster than if I'm looking at the Aurora Tea Gardens, like her and Nick dated and then were engaged and then they finally got married. And then obviously, Candace left for a different network and then they stopped. But like that was a really long, slow burn of a relationship. Whereas this one, I feel like they moved it along faster, which I think is helpful to the audience. Like if that's where you're going, you might as well just go there and then just show it from that angle. Because just like, I mean, Aurora and Nick work together to solve mysteries as well. And so having that, dynamic just be a little different I also
Sorry,
noticed.
let's go to Curious Cater, right? That's 5 episodes now. And do you
Yep.
see
Yeah.
Goldie and
Well, I
Steve
feel
at
like
the
that was not a relationship that they fast tracked at all, though. Like
right? But
that
I'm
was a
just saying it's
very
five
slow
episodes,
burn.
right?
Yeah. That was probably
So
a writing choice, like of like, or maybe again, you have people who have chemistry, like you can move it along faster because you're like, oh, I can actually see them together,
now that's a hot take.
you
Andrew
know?
Walker and Nikki DeLoach don't have chemistry together.
Not in the
We
romantic way,
we
which we
have
have
talked
talked about.
about it,
I
how
know.
we would have been totally comfortable had
Yeah.
they been brother
I mean, I
sister.
feel like they
We
are
di-
now, but
we
it was a
digress.
slow burn.
Yeah. But even to your point too, at the end of Crossword Mysteries, like I thought it was a nice conclusion because they came together, but I never felt like, oh, Logan and Tess, they're meant to be together, right? And yes, while the relationship didn't happen until that fifth one, it still didn't ever have that just they belong together, right? You do have it with Travis and Amy, I think, but
Yeah.
I don't think many of them you do. You're like, okay, they're together, but whatever.
Yeah. And then Henry, he drove in this one with his father was in the back seat. Like usually, Maggie was always the one driving, and then at the end, Henry drove, which I thought was kind of fun to have that, showing that like, okay, I trust you. You can take the wheel.
That's a good, yeah,
So
that's a good one.
yeah.
And
I'm paying attention, Eric. I'm paying attention.
that's
What?
that. That's what that game did to you. It gave you all paying attention to
Well, I
details
wrote
now.
this before I played my game, but what
Imagine
about your
how good you're going to be
character?
at the way home with the clues now.
I know, piecing it all together. That's why I watched it a second time. Who was your character this time?
Actually, I realized I had the scene. I didn't have the character
Oh,
this
that's
time.
okay.
So
What'd you
it's
have for a scene?
the ending when Henry goes ahead and squirts the bad guy Belvedere to get him away, and then the two he's right next to Maggie pointing. She's pointing the gun. He's pointing the hose. It's a totally fun ending to a mystery, which is kind of like the lightheartedness of the Gourmet Detective, and it made me, while not quite on the level of the Frying Pan, a similar type thing, right? Where it can be a little shenanigan-y, but it's not silly. It's not too silly, right? But it's a fun way to catch the bad guy. So I
Oh,
really
okay.
liked the ending, and like I said, just him holding that hose, being so proud of himself, like literally thinking like I am right here holding my, dirty, hairy
Oh,
thing, my go ahead, make my day, where it's just a garden hose.
oh.
A lot of fun.
Well, mine is, of course, Jim Ross, Henry's dad, played by Bruce Boxleitner. He's one of my favorite Hallmark dads, just as I had talked about, earlier this week. Both of these guys are two of my favorites, and I think that his acting choices, um, just like so lovable. He had his undercover scenes, but then he was also a good dad. I think that, having that Abby, the special dish that they added to the menu, I think they really utilized him well, and he wasn't just a throwaway character. Like they actually used him um, to move along the story and to move along relationships. So for me, that was my kind of standout was Henry's dad.
I'll give a little foreshadow for the interview with Dylan, which is a two-parter, by the way.
The new
It's
one where it's going to air next
Yep.
week.
He we just do a little more talking about general things, but then we break down every episode, right? But he's got some thoughts about Bruce and his role as the father there. And then he also was the dad in what was the horrible one? Matchmaker Mysteries. He was the dad in that one too. So there's a little bit
Uh,
that will come up in the interview. So that's what you have to look
okay.
forward to.
Okay.
Great pick though, by the way, because I thought about doing him as well. I just thought the ending, for being the ending of the series, and we know where it was. I thought it was just a great encapsulation, like I said, because it was that glimpse of, once again, that Henry that Dylan wanted to me. So I felt good.
Well, what if we had to rank all five of the movies? What's your number five? We'll start there.
Number five was the last one that we saw, which was Why Am I Number
Eat, drink, and
4,
be buried.
Eat, Drink, and Be Buried. And once again, I ranked it as a 4. I really liked it. I just found it a little mystery was kind of like a eh. And once again, I'll foreshadow. Dylan has a lot of thoughts in that episode. So, which explains a lot, right? For why it ended up being a 4 for me. So, how about you? What was your
Death al dente. What was your number 4?
Death al dente was number 2, right?
The third movie.
Oh, that was
Your
the third.
favorite. Yeah, your favorite is my least favorite.
Why did I get the names confused with them? I think I 1, 2, 3. So Death al dente is the other one. There's the 2 that he has a lot to talk about concessions that had to be made in Death al dente and Eat, Drink, and Be Buried that really sort of affected the outcome. So moving on to 4, I'm right here with this one, which I ranked at a 4.5. I really liked it a lot. I just had that one little thing and it's so nitpicky because I love the whole series, right? But
my number 4 is Eat, Drink, and Be Buried, the 4th movie. So it sounds like Dylan's least favorite, my 2 least favorite as well. Number 3, what was your number 3?
so, man, this is where it's tough because the final 3 I gave all 5s to, right?
Yeah, me too.
Which are 1, 2, and 3. So I'm gonna have to go with the second one, which is A Healthy Place to Die,
Okay.
only because the other 2 are higher. They're like 5.5 and 6. So
My number 3 is Rue the Day, which is this movie, just barely. But yeah, that would be my number 3. What is your number 2?
would be the pilot.
Okay.
Absolutely loved the pilot. It's perfect. I have nothing bad to say about it.
My number 2 is also the pilot. And your number 1?
Is the third movie, which is the
Death
Death
al
al dente,
dente.
I guess.
Yep.
And it's once again because it is the movie that I think was so fantastic. You had the boyfriend who pushed Maggie and Henry together, the ex-boyfriend, I should say, pushed them together, and we got the kiss, and we got the second kiss, and it just all the other stuff I just don't even pay attention to. It was such a great relationship. This was great. So, and your fave?
Mine was A Healthy Place to Die. So those are ours that we had. And I know some people have sent their favorites or their orders in as well. So it's always fun. Our Hallmark trivia. So my trivia here is what I have found. When Maggie enters the suspect's house with her firearm drawn, her pistol has the end of the barrel exposed, meaning that the slide is racked in the recoil position. And in this mode, the gun is unable to fire, and the slide normally locks in this position when the last round of the magazine has been fired. I don't know what any of that means, but that's what I found. And then I also have one, which I bet you might have more to this story. The other thing that I found was in some scenes, Dylan is only shown from the left side because he fell and hit a metal pole during filming. Yeah. He had to get 7 stitches at the ER, and he cut. Dylan also cut his face during a previous movie. No, it must be his fingers. And he sliced his finger, which also ended in the ER, which I think was the last movie we talked about. So that finger cut, clearly it was more severe since he ended up in the ER for 2 movies.
He didn't tell me he went to the ER for that one. But
that's what I found. But again, IMDb. So who knows? Who knows?
So Dylan basically, he talked about that he ran and fell headfirst into a metal pole on the last night of filming.
Oh gosh!
Severely sliced his ear open, and was ordered to the emergency room. But he was the executive producer. It was the last night, so he had to overrule the production manager because if he had left. It was the last night. They have no more money. They can't keep going. They can't roll it anymore. The entire movie would have collapsed. So they, once again, like you said, they filmed it for the one side, and that's how they rolled. His cartilage, he had to end up going afterwards. He had a concussion, so he was like in a quiet room for 30 minutes until he could get going. They glued his ear back on, shot the rest of the final climax using only one side of his face. He was warned the cartilage may not heal properly as a part of not going to the hospital. So he's like, oh, well, they had to erase the blood dripping in the post
my
production. And then Brooke took him to the emergency room when he's all done. And so he's got the scar to prove it
Wow.
for the war thing. But
Oh,
yep.
wow. Okay, well, that is wild. And so kind of coming into our final
What's wild is every single one
just got worse
had
and worse.
something with Dylan
It
like
was a sign.
that was there, yeah.
Well, Hallmark and Chill. This is my Murder She Wrote recommendation. I actually just watched this episode, season 4, episode 19, Just Another Fish Story. I would actually have said the one I recommended last week also would work because of the forgery, but Jessica is delighted to return to New York City with the announcement of her nephew Grady's impending engagement. But when a restaurant employee is killed, the engagement is threatened.
Is that one of the ones we watched?
No,
That you have us watch? Okay.
no. This one it's fine. Like it's a good like upper middle, type of movie. It's a classic Grady got engaged. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to ruin like the actual the mystery. It's a different mystery for Murder She Wrote. The who done it part. So you might enjoy that.
By the way, I had one other Hallmark trivia thing. This is Brooke Burns' last acting credit.
You've told us that
right.
before. Yes.
I know, but this is the actual movie, so
yes, you told us that.
But
you told us that like a
it's
few
relevant
episodes.
on this one.
Yes.
That's when I was looking. We were in the first one or something like that,
Okay.
looking for stuff.
Okay.
All right. So my Hallmark and Chill, and maybe someone didn't listen to that episode. There's nothing wrong.
No.
Which they should.
Repeating.
So mine is, and this is based off of, once again, when we talked to him and he sort of said the vibe he was going for was Castle. So just this week, last week, I started binging Castle and I'm through the first 8 episodes, and it really does have like a Gourmet Detective vibe. You can tell that it's inspired. Gourmet Detective is inspired by Castle. The dynamic of the two. I think if you like Gourmet Detective and you haven't seen Castle, you should give it a go. It's on Hulu and Prime, I believe. So two different options there. But it's fun. It's cute. Great banter back and forward between the two, and it's this very similar thing. Female detective with he's an author instead of the gourmet detective kind of thing. But
well, next week we're going to do our, episode 5 of The Way Home and Spencer Sisters. And then that will be on Monday. And then Wednesday and Friday is going to be Eric interviewed Dylan again for 2.5 hours. I did not. That is a long time to commit. So that will be airing on Wednesday and Friday next week. And then also a reminder, next week, the new Hannah will air on the 6th. This was Thursday. So it will air on Friday then on the Hallmark Plus app if you have the app. But it will be on the 6th if you want to watch Hannah Swenson, Reality Bites live. So just a heads up that is right now the only new mystery that we know of literally the entire year as of now. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
It has been. Is it still freezing there, by the way? Or is it kind of warmed up a little bit?
I think it was like 8 degrees and it felt like 1 degree out. So
it's still freezing. Okay.
The usual.
Well, stay warm, stay happy, watch some Spencer Sisters, and we will talk again. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.